What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here for PackersNews.com, live on Facebook the day after the Packers are shut out for the first time since 2006. Shutout at home, that is, which was also, coincidentally, Mike McCarthy's first year on the job in Green Bay. So I thought I'd give you guys 24 hours, have you soak it in. Heard from Mike McCarthy, heard from Dom Capers, heard from Ron Zook, and now I thought I'd hear from you fine folks and see what's on your mind. A little over 24 hours since the debacle at Lambeau Field. Andrew, what's up? Manu, thanks for joining us. Justin, hello from Minnesota. How are you, buddy? I'm here in Appleton, Wisconsin. Good afternoon, Joan. Thank you for joining us. Alberto starts us off with Callahan to start, or is it still the Hundley show? Alberto, it is most definitely still the Hundley show. McCarthy, both last night after the game and this morning when we spoke with him, reiterated his confidence and his faith in Brett Hundley, and did state that Hundley will start the game Sunday night in Pittsburgh. Mike brings up the next point: fire them all. I'm sure that's a pretty common sentiment around Packer fandom here today on Monday, Mike. When are they going to use another QB, Christopher? I don't anticipate them going anywhere at QB other than continuing to stick with Hundley unless he gets hurt. It sure, looks like McCarthy will ride Brett Hundley as far as he can this season. I think that commitment has been made. Like I said, outside of an injury situation, if Hundley wasn't pulled at halftime yesterday, and McCarthy said, as I asked him after the game, if he ever thought of going to Callahan at any point during the game against the Ravens, and he said absolutely not. If that is the case, if yesterday's game can't get Hundley pulled, then there is not a whole heck of a lot that can get him pulled outside of injury. So I would expect Hundley to remain the starter until or if Aaron Rodgers comes back late in the year. So will Ted Thompson give me a refund for going to that game last night? I will ask him as soon as I talk to him, which will be in February during the Combine. So I'll let you know. How much lower does it go before Mark Murphy forces changes? Mark Murphy isn't going to force anything. Murphy has made it abundantly clear that Ted Thompson can do his job until the end of his contract, which is after the 2018 season through that draft. And Ted Thompson, I would be very surprised if he made a move with Mike McCarthy, knowing that part of the reason McCarthy is in this mess is because of Thompson's handling of the backup quarterback situation. So I don't see any changes on the horizon. Perhaps the one change I could see happening is Dom Capers' removal as defensive coordinator. Although after yesterday, that's hard to justify, seeing as they were the only unit that actually showed up. But there's still a ways to go here this season before we start talking about firings. Tim says, I'm boycotting Packer games until anyone besides Hundley is starting. You may be missing a few games there. But, hey, you can be very productive doing other things while the Packers are playing. Free Tyrod, the Bills don't deserve him. I tell you what, Tyrod Taylor would be exponentially better than Brett Hundley. Tell him he's the worst GM in football. Mike, I will do my best. Says a lot about this team that one guy makes a difference. It's sad. Yeah, I mean, I know lots of people like to compare to the Patriots, the job that they did when Tom Brady went down all those years ago, or even last year when they went 3-1 without Brady. But outside of that example, there aren't too many teams that have survived the fall of their franchise quarterback. The Steelers certainly haven't fared, exceptionally well without Ben Roethlisberger through the years. We saw how the Colts fell apart without Peyton Manning. They were so bad they got the first overall pick. So it is, it does absolutely point out how the Packers are constructed around Aaron Rodgers, and when you remove him from the equation, it all kind of falls apart. But I think most places around the league are pretty similar. Can the game still be flexed to an earlier slot, or is it going to stay a Sunday night game? Alberto, it is absolutely going to stay a Sunday night game. If they were going to flex it, they had to announce it 12 days prior to the game, which would have been last week. They did move some things around on that Sunday. I think they moved a 12 o'clock kick to a 3 and switched vice versa. But the Packers-Steelers game is remaining where it is. McCarthy won't give Callahan a shot because he doesn't like being wrong at all. I think there's probably there's a little something to that. Although I also think he truly believes Hundley gives them their best shot to win. Should have kept Hill. He outperformed Hundley in the preseason. Yes and no. I mean, he made a couple of exciting plays with his legs against third and fourth stringers, whereas, Hundley was playing against starters and second stringers for the most part. So yeah, I agree that Hill looked impressive and he looked promising, but you can't. I'm not going to kill them for cutting a older quarterback with an injury history and trying to get him on their practice squad. Any chance for Callahan? Asked James. Only in an injury situation, I think. Now, I say that, and we could get there Sunday night, and they could have 2 or 3 horrific drives, and maybe in the heat of the moment, McCarthy makes a move, but I really doubt it. So millions of people can watch a live murder Sunday night. Oh, Andrew, that's unfortunate. The Steelers have 14 points. That's crazy. Yeah, that is the highest or the biggest point spread against the Packers since Aaron Rodgers went down with a concussion back in 2010, and they were going into New England with Matt Flynn as their starter. That was the last time they were this big of underdogs. Tyler says, let's go Cap. Well, yeah, Colin Kaepernick is not going to happen. If Colin Kaepernick were going to happen, it would have happened immediately after Aaron Rodgers went down. If you bring in Kaepernick at this point, it's going to take him 2 or 3 weeks to learn the system, and by the time you throw him in there, 2 things. They're probably going to be completely out of the playoff race, and 2, Aaron Rodgers is pretty close to returning. So that at this point, Kaepernick makes very little sense. Do you think we should put Joe Callahan in at quarterback? Luke, I would have put him in at halftime yesterday. Absolutely. I don't understand how you can stick with Hundley. I understand that you have all this time invested in him and he's your backup, etc., etc. But that first half of football was downright putrid at the quarterback spot. And I just don't see how you don't try and give your team a spark to win the game. We should get Tim Tebow. Gosh, John, that would make my life crazy. Crazier than it already is. Thank goodness that Dallas is imploding. Packers fans are always good for some schadenfreude, watching their rivals. Brett Hundley is playing like he doesn't know the sport at all. Yeah, I mean, that's a bit harsh, but he definitely does not look good. Injuries, Justin, nothing new to report today. Other than Kenny Clark's injury, it sounds like, we don't have anything official on this yet. The Packers haven't confirmed this, but it sounds like he escaped serious injury. I'll still be very surprised if he suits up Sunday night, but it sure sounds like he won't be lost for the season. He probably will miss a week, but that may be it, which is obviously a big bullet dodged for the Packers. Outside of that, I haven't heard anything on Clay I'm trying to remember what the other one was, but there was 3 injuries last night. Do you see Barr got a personal foul roughing the passer? Imagine. Yeah, well, that's his game, right? Do you think Aaron Rodgers could come back if the Packers are in the playoff hunt? It's a possibility. I doubt it, though. Paul, do I fly back and forth each day? No, I fly back and forth for the game. So wherever the game is, Saturday before the game, I fly to wherever the Packers are going to be playing. And then if it's a home game, I stay for the Monday availability with McCarthy and sometimes the locker room. That wasn't available today. If it's an away game, I fly back home on Monday morning. Thoughts on Beagle? Sorry if I missed to join late. Luke, no problem. I haven't talked about Vince Beagle yet, although I did ask Dom Capers about him earlier today. You got to think with Clay Matthews and the groin injury will most likely keep him out a while. This is Beagle's going to be Beagle's big opportunity to show what he can do. I thought he played pretty well yesterday, especially considering they didn't expect him to play as much as he did. He was kind of thrown into the fire because of Clay's injury. And I thought he held up pretty well. Now, obviously, it's going to be interesting to see how he holds up against a high-octane attack like the Steelers. But, hey, I tell you what, for a guy who had absolutely zero work in the offseason because of his injury and then was, missed the first 6 weeks of the season, to be thrown in there the last 3 weeks, I think he's held up pretty well. And I think he's shown marked improvement each week. Brett hesitates too much and panics. He seems scared out there. Yeah, Nate, I definitely feel you on he's not anticipating. And I get that. We talked to McCarthy about that this morning. I actually have a video up on PackersNews.com that you can watch when he's talking about, comparing Hundley to Aaron Rodgers and how unfair that is to Hundley. But I do think that kind of, note is totally valid, where you can see him double clutching sometimes, and you can see him wanting to or needing to see receivers come open rather than anticipating them coming open. And that's obviously a big part of the NFL game. And, Hundley's on his now going to be 4th NFL start. So it's not like he's going to step in and magically have all of that available to him. But it is something he really, really needs to improve on if the Packers are going to have any chance at kind of salvaging their season down the stretch here. The punter has played good. Super Bowl. Duly noted, Sean. Rodgers' contract is for 2 more years. That is correct, although I would be very surprised if he isn't extended this summer. Grow the beard back. Adam, yeah, you're going to have to talk to my kids about that one. What are the chances Rodgers comes back this year? Zach, slimmer and slimmer if they continue to play as they did yesterday. 3 years in the system. Bob, that is true. Hundley does have 3 years in the system. However, he does not have 3 years of playing experience in the NFL. There's a monster difference between the two. Mike McCarthy constantly says we need to work on fundamentals, work on the basics. Well, put up or shut up. I think that excuse is, I guess you're saying old. Sorry, they go too fast. But I agree to an extent. At points, it can get a little frustrating and old and monotonous when he continually points to that. But I think he believes what he's saying in regards to most of their issues can be corrected if they focus on the fundamentals. The problem is there's way too much when you look at their play on the field where their fundamentals are going to hell. Now, is that a coaching thing? Is it the players not taking to the coaching? I don't know, but he's right to point to the fundamentals, but your point is also correct in that if there's always an issue of fundamentals falling apart, then that's a disconnect that you've got to address. Rob, Aaron Rodgers cannot opt out of his contract. I've addressed this several times, and I'll say it once more. Aaron Rodgers cannot opt out of his contract. Can't put it any plainer than that. Our only hope is Pittsburgh has a tendency to play down to who they play, and miracles can play. I was thinking that exact same thing this afternoon, actually. The old term, any given Sunday, and you're right. I was talking to a Steelers writer today who said, they're favored by 2 touchdowns. Now, that means they'll probably struggle and maybe win by 3. They do, as you say, have a long history under Tomlin and even before, under Cowher, of especially when they're quote-unquote good and one of the better teams in the league, they do tend to kind of let up or play down to their competition. If that's the case and the Packers do catch them looking past Green Bay, then yeah, maybe a punt return, breaking a kickoff return, maybe a fluke interception, something along those lines, pick 6, what have you, something like that maybe helps the Packers get a victory. Maybe it's bad weather on Sunday night and it's a ball security thing, and anything can happen and the ball bounces your way, you never know. That said, that's a whole lot of ifs and buts. Pittsburgh's clearly the better team. They should clearly be expected to win. It's going to take their Packers' best effort and a little bit of luck for them to win this game on Sunday night. Going to be up to the defense against Pittsburgh. Adam, that's a scary proposition because I think the Steelers are going to light them up. Trap game. Yeah, it could be a trap game for the Steelers. The problem is in prime time. If they had moved it to, like, say, a 1 o'clock kickoff, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff, that may have been a possibility. But, man, it's really hard to see the Steelers not looking forward to putting on a show against an inferior opponent on Sunday night. They are definitely that kind of team. Between, Antonio Brown, Juju, Schuster, Le'Veon Bell, and Big Ben, that's a lot of firepower. They could make the Packers look silly. All right, everyone. I'm going to have to head off now, but make sure you're checking PackersNews.com for all the latest. I'll talk to you soon.